The message arrived when the night was supposed to be quiet. No warning, no context, just a picture, a front porch, one shoe missing, a backpack slumped against a railing like it had given up first. The time on my phone read 1:47 a.m. My daughter, Lena, was 13 then, too old to cry loudly, too young to pretend fear didn't exist. She hadn't written anything, she didn't need to. The image said enough. Doors closed, lights off. The kind of darkness that doesn't come from the sky but from people deciding not to see you. I was 6 hours away, sitting in a hotel room I'd booked because I believed the sentence, "She'll be safe with family." I remember standing up so fast the chair tipped over. My heart didn't race. It dropped like it had missed a step it didn't know was gone. I called her immediately. She answered on the second ring. "I'm okay," she said quickly. Too quickly. Behind her voice was wind, actual wind. That was when I understood something terrifying. Whatever had happened, it wasn't an accident. Someone had decided my child didn't belong indoors. And in that instant, before anger, before blame, before grief, something quieter took shape inside me. Not fear, not rage, recognition. It wasn't a stranger who left her there. It wasn't fate. It was family. Her uncle, my own brother, the person I had trusted to watch over her. When I spoke to him later, hours later, when the flight and the dark had stretched long enough to taste the cold truth, his voice was calm, almost polite. "She's taking up space," he said. No apology, no hesitation, just the kind of statement people make when they've convinced themselves cruelty is ordinary. And just like that, the ground beneath me felt uneven, not shaking, not collapsing, but subtly tilting, as if the rules I believed in didn't exist anymore. I thought about how we teach children about family, about loyalty, about trust. And I realized the lesson Lena had already learned in those minutes on the porch, alone. Family isn't always safe. I didn't scream, I didn't argue. I did something more dangerous. I listened. Not to him, but to the clarity forming in my chest. That silence, that quiet understanding was the first step toward a choice I had never imagined I could make. I didn't yell, I didn't storm into the night. I booked the earliest flight home. Every tick of the clock was a drumbeat of responsibility, mine alone. On video calls, I watched her huddle under the porch light, shivering, pretending to read a book she wasn't holding. She tried to be brave. I tried to stay calm. And then, in that quiet stretch between fear and action, I made a decision. Not a loud, dramatic decision, not one fueled by anger or revenge. A single, deliberate choice. I would protect her. Not the house, not the family system, not anyone else. Her, only her. It felt almost dangerous to admit how simple it was. The kind of truth that shakes everything when spoken inside your own heart. Sometimes protecting what matters means letting everything else fall away. By the time my feet hit the ground at home, Lena was wrapped in a blanket, pretending to sleep so she wouldn't cry again. I sat beside her, not touching, not questioning, just being present. Silence can speak louder than words. And in that silence, I knew the world I had relied on, trusting others to act as they should, had vanished. The only ground beneath me now was the one I chose to create. By the next morning, the world had already begun its usual rhythm. Bills, reminders, messages that demanded attention. But for the first time, none of it had the power to make me move, except in one direction, toward what mattered. For years, I had quietly covered the gaps in our family's life. Utilities, late payments, small emergencies. I told myself it was helping. They told themselves it was expected. No one thanked me. No one noticed my exhaustion. That morning, I stopped, methodically, calmly. I redirected the flow of money that had been holding up a house, a routine, a family expectation, not out of spite, not for drama, But because I realized if you let others depend on you without boundaries, you become a shadow in your own life. Calls came, voices trembling with entitlement. "Can't you fix this?" they asked. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I said one sentence: "I'm no longer responsible for this." For the first time in years, the weight I carried, the invisible work of keeping them afloat, was gone. And in that emptiness, something remarkable happened. I felt clarity. And clarity, I discovered, can be far more potent than rage. The first notices came quietly. Emails, letters, reminders that deadlines were approaching. They were meant to panic me, to pull me back into the old rhythm. I didn't react. I watched as the systems we had been propping up began to strain under their own weight. The house, the bills, the routines, they had always depended on me. Now they depended on no one. My mother called, my brother called. The words were different, the tone desperate. There were still no apologies, just logistics and urgency. "You have to fix this," they said, but I could see it clearly now. Fixing it was no longer my responsibility, and Lena, my daughter, began to breathe differently. Sleep came easier. She didn't need to pretend anymore that she was safe in a place where others had failed her. I realized something essential. Consequences do not require force. They arrive on their own. And sometimes allowing them to arrive is the strongest statement you can make. When they tried again, pleas, guilt, reminders of childhood memories, I listened. They spoke of loyalty, of obligation, of years of shared history. They spoke as if those things could erase the image of my daughter standing alone in the night. I answered simply, "You chose how to treat her. That choice has consequences. No shouting, no dramatics, just a calm, unwavering truth." And in that moment, I saw something shift. Their power over me, the quiet authority they had always assumed, crumbled. They had relied on my silence, my patience, my willingness to fill gaps no one else cared about. I realized that protection is not just about shielding from danger. Sometimes protection is about teaching others that your child's safety is not negotiable and that certain boundaries are sacred. Lena watched me carefully. She understood, even if she didn't yet have the words. And in that understanding, I knew she had learned the most important lesson. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just stands firm. The house they clung to, the one I had quietly supported for years, was no longer untouchable. Notices arrived, deadlines passed, and the walls that once held birthdays, arguments, and half-forgotten traditions became nothing more than empty space. We drove past it one evening, lights still on, curtains drawn, shadows moving inside. The life within seemed ordinary, fragile, and yet completely unguarded by the authority they had taken for granted. Lena squeezed my hand. "Are we safe?" she asked. "Yes," I said, with certainty I had never felt before. It wasn't the building we had lost, nor the comfort of familiarity. It was the illusion that my protection could keep everything intact. That illusion was gone, and in its place was a different kind of security. The knowledge that we could survive and even thrive without depending on others to keep our world together. That night, Lena and I lit a small candle on our kitchen table, not for the house we had lost, not for the family who had failed to protect her. We lit it for us, for the life we chose, for the boundaries we set, for the courage to act when no one else would. I realized then that this story was never about property, bills, or obligations. It was about recognizing where responsibility truly lies and having the strength to honor it. It was about understanding that compassion without boundaries can become self-erasure, and that protecting those we love sometimes means letting go of what others take for granted. As we sat in that quiet glow, I understood something profound. The world doesn't bend to those who ask politely. It shifts when someone acts with clarity, with courage, and with unshakable resolve. We had not destroyed a house, we had built a life. And in that choice, in that deliberate act of protection, I discovered the kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't demand recognition, and doesn't need applause. It simply exists, steady and undeniable, like the light from a single candle piercing the dark.